Okay, so I'm going to try to remember to look at the light and not get distracted by myself on the screen. This is going to be a quick video I'm going to try to make very quickly before I go to work. Please forgive me if I get a little sidetracked. I've been taking my Adderall sparingly because I'm not sure how I'm going to afford the next prescription. I'm going over, this is going to be a more detailed story real quick about, well, a recounting about one of the incidents on the list that I read off in the previous video, of some of the worst things my mother's done to me. I've already gotten started on the second list, and I'm still waiting to hear back from the detective. I'm gonna give him a call probably like either today or tomorrow. So this is gonna focus on number 9 on the list that I went down. My mother lying to police and paramedics, and I'm just gonna give you the recounting of it as quickly as I can before I have to go to work. And again, my name is Katie Elizabeth Phillips. I'm from the Jersey. I grew up at the Jersey Shore. I'm giving sort of a recounting of what it's like to live with a parent that has a personality disorder, a severe cluster B personality disorder, and the sorts of things that they put you through as both as a kid and as an adult, and hoping that other people can learn from this, when it's time to cut ties. Some of the red flags that they should look for, like, if they do this to you, guess what? It's only going to get worse. So you might want to go now. All right, let me just get into it. I don't even need this. This was just the list. I'm just going to tell you what happened. So, I'm sorry, my screen went dark for a minute. Okay. So this was in my early 20s. My mother and my stepdad and I were all living with my grandmother at my grandmother's house in North Cape May in New Jersey. I was still in and out of college, going back and forth, and I don't remember exactly if this was summer. I don't think it was winter. It wasn't that cold. It might have been like fall or spring, because it was warm enough that I wasn't like, I don't remember being dressed really for hot weather, but I wasn't dressed like for cold weather. So I think it was more closer to a temperate season. Anyway, so I was in my early 20s. My mother and I got into an argument. We were in her bedroom at my grandmother's house, and it was just a verbal argument. She was on one side of her bedroom, and I was on the other side of her bedroom. I was close to the door. I was standing in front of the door. My stepdad was there too, Phillips-Cottrell, and he was a lawyer at one point. Keep that in mind. He retired from being a lawyer and became a history teacher at high school and a crew coach, but he was a lawyer at one point. So my mom and I were in a verbal argument. She did not like what I was doing with my life, and a lot of my life was going awry. Like, I wasn't concentrating in school very well, and a lot of that was because I was like thinking about all this stuff I was learning, studying psych. For my psych classes, and that's just the stuff I think about anyway. Like, I didn't even need to be kicked off down the psych road with any classes. Just going over and analyzing stuff in my childhood and the way my mother's behaved, that was like a big part of my problem in college, my inability to focus, and I was self-medicating, dealing with it by smoking weed. And I was just like walking around the city, listening to music and thinking, and barely putting work into my classes. And so she didn't, and it wasn't just that, but so I was like reconsidering whether or not I even wanted to be an artist even then, because I had realized during my thinking, during my first year there, shit, I don't think I really want to be an artist. Like, I'm willing to give it up for other things, like having a family. At the end of the day, at the end of my life, I want a family more than I want to be an artist. If I have to sacrifice one, it's going to be being an artist. So I was like, and I realized this when I was already neck deep in student loans in art school, because, I was just pushed into that as a teenager. Didn't know shit about shit. So, and which just had been told my whole life, you're an artist, you're going to be an artist. So then when I finally got into art school, I was trying to figure out like what my major was going to be, like, because I'm pretty good at all arts if I decide, make up my mind to learn it. All kind of work with your hands, painting, drawing, sculpture. I'm very good at all of them. So, and photography, that's another one, or art therapy. So I was blah, blah, blah. Oh gosh, make this shorter, Kat. Sorry. So yeah, so that was a big part of my problem, was I was going like, my life, my childhood, I didn't have a chance. My mom was not a good mother. I've been pushed down a path that I don't really want, and now I am neck deep in student loans, and I don't know what to do with myself except smoke a bunch of weed, and I don't know. So like at this point, I don't know why I was home. Either it was a summer or spring vacation or a holiday or something. It was maybe a spring vacation or something. Although no, my school didn't have spring vacations. They had very long winter vacations. Maybe it was like an early spring, summer, like just out of semester. I don't know. So anyway, the argument between my mother and I was in her bedroom. We were on opposite sides of the room. My stepdad, who was a lawyer, was watching the whole thing. It was completely verbal. I don't remember what the argument was about. I know she was displeased with my life at the time. And with what I was doing with myself, trying to figure out what was going on with myself. And she was giving me the business that I need to do this and I need to do that. And I basically ended the argument with, I'm an adult and I'm going to do what I want with my life, and there's nothing you can do about it, and go F yourself. Like I threw that in there at the end because I was really tired of having to fight for control of my life, the direction of my life, already. And this is almost like 20 years later. So, and so I said that. I ended the argument with, I'm going to do what I want with my life, and there's nothing you can do about it, and go after yourself. And she went, oh, yeah? My mother, Michelle Phillips-Cottrell, went, oh, yeah? And I should have known better then, because that was not the first time I'd seen or heard that face or that tone. And I didn't think there was anything she could do. I was in my early 20s. I didn't know how vicious she could be yet. Not quite. And I was an adult now, so it was like, yeah. And kind of laughed, and then turned around, walked out of the room, walked downstairs, and went out back and started smoking a cigarette in the backyard. Then 10 to 15 minutes later, something like that, I'm still in the backyard smoking, and I hear commotion and stuff inside. I hear like people talking a lot. I hear animals barking and stuff, which typically that means like we have people coming in the house. And so I come in through the back door, and I see my mom standing in the living room telling a police officer and paramedics that I'm behaving erratically and that I need to go to the hospital for observation. Now, my mother, who is currently a nurse practitioner, she was not then. She was a nurse, but she had already been working for PIP. PIP is like a psych sort of foundation. I don't know what you want to call it. Based out of Atlantic City, and they evaluate people who are brought in there, or sometimes they send people out to hospitals to evaluate, like nearby hospitals to evaluate them if they're brought in and it looks like they're behaving strangely. Like, so they're sent there to see if like maybe they're just on drugs and they just need to be held for the night, or if they're having some kind of psychotic break and they need to be taken someplace to be watched and treated and like see a therapist or something. So my mother knew exactly what to say. She worked for PIP as a screener. So that's what those people are. The people who like go out to hospitals and screen people to see if they need to be brought in for more treatment, or if they just need to be held in the hospital for the night or something because they're going through a bad trip, whatever. They're drunk. So my mom knew exactly what to say. She told them I was behaving erratically. I was not behaving erratically. I made sure, here's another thing. I don't remember specifically what the argument was over and what specifically anything that was said up to like the last few lines of the argument, which was me ending it with, I'm an adult and I'm going to do what I want with my life. and there's nothing you can do about it, and go F yourself. What I do remember about the whole argument was being very, very, very careful not to say anything that could give her an excuse to put me in the hospital, because she'd already done it at that point. I'd already said stuff like, you make me want to kill myself, and she'd lunged on that as a reason to put me in the hospital to show me that she was boss. Like, she'd already used this as a power play. So I do remember that. I remember in the back of my mind being very careful. Be very careful what you say to her, because you know what she'll do if you give her anything that she can use. So I did not say a damn thing that warranted being put in a hospital. I simply had a verbal argument with her. I told her, like, she, yelled at me about stuff she wanted me to do or stuff she didn't want me to do or whatever. And I basically told her, no, I'm going to do what I want. It's my life. I'm an adult now, and I can do what I want. And you can't dictate to me my life, and go F yourself. And she went, oh, yeah? And I went, yeah. And then walked out of the room. And again, my stepdad, the lawyer, watched all of this. So he saw the entire argument. He knew I didn't say anything that would warrant me getting put into a hospital. And he stood by in the corner of the living room and watched my mom lie to a bunch of police and paramedics and convince them that I needed to be taken into a hospital to be seen because I was behaving erratically, because she was going to show me. It wasn't long after that doctors actually started telling me, like doctors at the hospital that I would be taken to, like this little psych hospital, I forget what it's called. This was like, a lot of this happened in my early 20s. Anyway, so but I remember the names of two of the doctors. One doctor was named, I called him Dr. Ebola because it was easier to name, but his name was Dr. Bola Renoir. And there was another doctor named Dr. Zwill. And I'll never forget that they were sitting there across from me at one point said to me, you and your mother, they said you and your mother. And I remember thinking to myself, what do you mean me and my mother? You need to be talking to her about this. I'm sitting here because she's lying to you and using the system to abuse me. They said to me, you and your mother need to stop using the system to control each other. It was either to control one another or to get back at one another or something like that. And I was like, how am I using the system? I'm the one being put to having my freedom taken away from me and being put in this hospital because my mother lies to authorities when I tell her no. Is what I wanted to say to them. Like, that's what I was screaming in the back of my mind while they were saying this to me. Because they had even, at this point, it happened so often, they were even starting to see it. But they had worked with my mother. So that's a hard conversation to have with a coworker, is it not? Like, you need to stop using the system to abuse your daughter. They should have written her up. They should have fucking reported her, is what they should have done. And instead, they kind of warned her through me in a threatening way, whilst also threatening me. It was like, what the F are you people doing? You have any fucking guts or spine or integrity? You saw what was happening. You saw what she was doing to me. You knew I didn't have any business being in that hospital. You knew that. You should have fucking reported her. That's what you should have fucking done. You should have sent that message to her good and loud almost 20 years ago. Then maybe it would have saved a lot of us, like many nightmares. Okay? So her, like, trying to get me sent to the hospital stopped or slowed down a lot after I came home and told her what they said to me. Like, that was their warning to her sort of through me. It was like, you guys need to stop using, you two need to stop using the system. You two, I'm sorry. I'm not telling police and paramedics that she's crazy, even though she's freaking, I don't know what you call sociopath, maybe crazy, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else I left out about that story, that specific incident. Yeah, so she had my freedom taken away from me. She had my human rights violated to prove a point to me, to get me under her thumb, to show me that she was the boss. She lied to police and paramedics. A nurse, she's a nurse practitioner. She runs a clinic. She lied to police and paramedics to have her own daughter put in a hospital because I ended an argument with, I'm going to do what I want with my life and there's nothing you can do about it, and go fuck yourself. There, I said the F word instead of just saying the F word. Whatever. All right, I'm going to upload this real quick. Yeah, I got to go leave for work in like a few minutes. All right, so ending this now. And I'll be coming out with more little like recountings of everything on that list. Well, most of the stuff on the list. I have a whole other list. And then I'm also going to be contacting the detective. I was hoping to get the written out statement testimony I gave him and all that before I addressed the list of lies and misleading statements my mother said to the judge. But we'll get around to it. It'll happen. Anyway, okay.